The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we'll review Austin FC's 0-0 draw at home against Portland. We'll preview the first trip to Canada of the season, and we'll cover all the other Austin FC news of the week. My name's Landon Cottam, and I'm joined once again by Mr. Mike Cragnola. Mike, good to see you, buddy.
Hey Landon, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Jeremiah is off globe trotting to some exotic gala in a faraway land.
Yeah, like Glendale, Arizona. Something like that. Yeah, he's probably in the Redneck Riviera, maybe. Maybe he's at like Orange Beach or something. There's got to be conferences there, right?
But wearing a green tuxedo. And was it you that we were talking about that the other day, that Jeremiah was like, wherever he is, he's wearing a tuxedo and he's at a gala no matter what anybody else is doing?
No, but I love this idea.
Yeah, like, he's uninvited, but also somehow like emceeing a silent auction.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that the idea is like he shows up at the post office and they're like, okay, great. Will you present the awards now?
Yes.
He's like, no, I'm just here to like drop off a package of, I don't know, Patreon rewards or whatever. Right.
Speaking of Patreon rewards, Mike, It's time. The time has come.
Landon, my favorite thing about this time of year is that like I am still 100% convinced that the reason you invited me to that birthday party where I met you in person for the first time is because you wanted to pick my brain about Patreon.
Is that the first time we talked about it?
Yeah, at your birthday party.
I wish I were that clever or conniving to be. I would be much farther ahead in life at this point, Mike. But yeah, thank you for planting the seed in my head. Greatly appreciated. But let's talk about the gifts for this year. We finally have the designs done. We have some mock-ups and or physical products ready. Ooh. And the ones that are mock-ups will be real and in my house very soon. But let's talk about what the new gifts this year are. So at the $5 level, this year the gift is going to be a custom designed Moon Tower Soccer bandana designed by some folks in the Austin FC community will know Becca Messenger. Very, very talented designer. I'm very excited with how this bandana turned out. So that's going to be at the $5 level. The $10 level, you'll get the $5 reward as well, plus a bottle of Moon Tower Morita and garlic hot sauce. Brought to you by St. Blaine's Hot Sauce. So we're super excited about this one too. St. Blaine's is a small, just kind of family-run hot sauce company. Blaine happens to listen to the show and reached out about making some Moon Tower Soccer hot sauce. So we got that done as well. The bottles look super cool. The bandana looks super cool. These are going to be limited edition things, like they only exist to folks who join the Patreon at one of those levels. And if we run out, that's going to be all that ever exists. So definitely check those out. I'm definitely going to get them up on the website before you're hearing this. If you're on the website now, say at like 7 a.m. and it's not there, maybe check back in a couple of hours. But hedging my bets here. But we're very excited about this. And jokes aside, like folks who support us through the Patreon, it means so much to us just because we put a lot of work into this. I hope that shows that how much me and Jeremiah and Steph and Mike put into making this content for you, and making some money off of it is a way that we can justify to ourselves and to our families. And Mike's laughing here, but I'm not really kidding.
No, it's so funny to like think about this, right? Like usually when we talk about why do we do this, right? It's because we love it, right? And we would probably do it the same with 0 patrons. But like it does feel so like wild. I don't know a better word than to like than just how crazy it all is, right? That like we do put in a lot of hard work and folks recognize it, and that feels really cool and really neat.
Yeah, it really does. And this new kind of Wild West media landscape that we exist in, like this is how you have to get soccer content in the modern era. Like if you want in-depth coverage on your local team, folks like us are kind of the only place you can go to get it. And so if what we do is something that you are glad exists and you want to show your appreciation and help us make it keep existing for a long time, please join the Patreon. It would make us very happy, and we'll be very, very grateful. We're going to keep badgering you about this for the next few weeks probably, and then we'll leave you alone. But yeah, go to patreon.com/moontowersoccer and you can see pictures of the gifts that I have put on the website already.
That's right. They're up there. If you're listening right now,
they're
up
there now. I'm not going to do it at midnight today after we finish recording, Mike. They're already there.
Yeah, no, I believe you.
Okay, good.
I won't check. That's how much I believe you. I would never besmirch your honor by going to the website right now and checking.
All right, let's talk about soccer, Mike.
Landon, I want to know though, before we talk about soccer, how many new Patreon subscribers do we need to get to ask our hot sauce partner here to make a boring but correct flavor, where it's like it's not spicy, but it has a lot of pepper flavor?
It's like bell pepper and salt.
Yeah. And like a smidge of cayenne, like not a lot, just like a splash, you know?
Or like the flavor of jalapeno without any of the heat.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. What would Jeremiah's be if yours is boring but correct?
Oh man. Maybe it's the Moon Tower Marita and garlic, because it is a little so Blaine gave us some of these. We should stop. We should save some of this for later, but Blaine gave us some of the hot sauces. They're good. They're very, very tasty. Let's jump into the story of the week. So Austin FC continues two trends, one of those being very, very difficult to score against, and the other being that they have a hard time scoring themselves, which led to this 0-0 draw at home against Portland. We'll get into maybe some of the more negative or anxiety-inducing topics here in a second, but I think let's start on a positive and just give some praise to the defense.
Man, like going into this match, after talking with Sam Sviller from Stumptown on the Swoon Tower preview, I was nervous, Landon, about the attacking width of this team, but like Austin played super physical and like did not let those big dudes on the wings like trouble them. It was an intense match, and like watching them bear down and like get it done was really impressive.
Yeah, I was impressed by Austin's pressing. That part of the game was really effective, generated several chances. And then while Portland was building up, Austin did a good job of keeping Portland's players in front of their second line, kind of so the 4-4-2 shape in front of that middle line. There was often times when Portland had to drop players in front of that line to be able to get out of pressure and to keep the ball moving. And so Felipe Mora, their striker, and then some of the other front players would have to drop really deep. And sometimes they would receive the ball and be able to play, but then there'd be 6, 7, 8 guys behind that line. And so if they did continue to play, Austin didn't panic. They didn't start chasing shadows and opening up more space. They kind of held their shape. Okay, you can have it, but over here. And the few times that they did get in behind or did break a line, because Portland had to drop so many players that deep, there was nobody there to really support the guy with the ball. And so the Austin players did a good job of just kind of slow playing the guy on the ball, standing them up, and then everyone else put in really good effort time after time to get back behind those players and give support. And so the few times Portland did break that line or get a little counterattack going, I don't think ever really amounted to much for those two reasons.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the stats of the match, right? Like Austin won every defensive and duel stat, except aerial duels, which we tied on. So like the team really stuck to the foundation that we've seen Nico building.
Let's talk about. Let's start this section with a quote from Nico Estevez in the press conference. He said, "Humans desire always what they don't have," and he's talking about goals in this instance. And I think he said that to kind of set the context of like, okay, let's pump the brakes. We're all concerned about the goals. We want to score more goals, but we've given up 3 goals in 7 games. That's how good our defense has been, and not in a fluky way, not in an accidental way, in a repeatable and proven way. And then he went on to say, like, okay, in this game, I think we created enough chances or generated enough chances to get at least 1 goal. Do you agree with that take?
I mean, on any other night, right? At least that Izuni header goes in. Like at the very least, right? And so, yeah, I think that's a fair take that like, and then there were 2 or 3 other like opportunities where if things are falling right for this team, we probably get a goal. It feels like that is a common refrain through a lot of the season so far that like, oh, this could have been a multiple goal game if everything fell a foot different, right? But I think it's true.
Yeah, I think it could be true that like, okay, yes, we want to generate more chances, and they probably need to generate more chances if they want to be a consistently more dangerous attacking team. But I think you're right that it is also true that what they generated in this one, in a lot of games, whether it be luck or execution, that they probably could have and maybe should have scored at least one in this one. There's a lot of messiness in the first half. I started a list of mistakes, just like big mistakes that guys made just in the first half, and I stopped keeping track because like, okay, this is a silly list to keep making, but I think it's like a dozen moments throughout the first half where Gallagher dribbles a ball out of bounds, Sabovic like has some fancy skill and avoids 2 players and then plays like has a loose touch and just gives it away, just moment after moment. And then not to mention some of the chances that were just not put on target. Like you factor all those in. Okay. Yeah. The chances were generated, but it's not entirely luck. It's like, there's some execution issues going on here.
That's fair. I will say though, with 6 shots inside the box, like, and from the players that you want to be taking these shots, right? Like a bunch of these are Mirto Izuni shots. A bunch of these are like BV9 shots. Like these are the players that you want in this position to take those shots. And I have to believe that eventually they're going to start going in.
I guess that's the next question is like, should we believe that they'll eventually go in? I saw in We Are Austin TV posted a video on Instagram from the locker room, and I don't know if it was them or someone else that was standing there, asked Uzuni if it's like, is it time to sound the alarms? And Uzuni's response was, of course not. Like we just in 4 games, we have 3 wins and 1 draw. That's good. Like we should be happy about that. And he went on to say, like, I'm like, it doesn't hurt anybody worse than me when I don't score a goal and I can't help my team win or we're not clicking offensively, but there's no reason to panic. And I think because of the defensive record, that is entirely true, that we should not be panicking. But you probably can't have games like this forever and continue to stay at the top of the Western Conference. Like maybe you can sneak into the playoffs, sure, but I feel like the ambitions are probably a little higher than that at this point from this team and from Estevez. Maybe they won't say that out loud, but you'd have to think that given the highlights of the first 7 games, that their sights will be set a little bit higher than 9th place.
Where are your sights set this early into the season after having seen what we've seen?
That's a good question. I have pretty even parts like realist and optimist in me. But as you were saying, like there's guys who I know are really good at soccer and who I know have scored a bunch of goals who aren't quite firing on all cylinders right now. That gives me belief that they could start scoring. I do still think that we're going to need to get them more chances. They're not getting a ton of shots. They're not getting a chance to really get into a rhythm. And so if they miss that first one, okay, now they're in their head and they only get one more chance the rest of the game. And that's kind of the mentality they're going into that chance with. I think we need to get these guys some reps, get them some volume, and hopefully some confidence that will come along with that because we know they can do it. We know they can do it.
Landon, you dodged the question.
Oh, I forgot the question. Okay.
Where are your sights set for this team after the first 7 games?
So I think my preseason prediction was like 7th place, like top 7.
Yeah.
I think with this defense, I think we could be top 4, top 5 if we can score at least a goal every game.
Yeah.
But
you do need to score to win.
Nils
so
aren't going to get
fair.
you there.
Yeah. Okay. I still think we are going, what is it now? 31, 2-1. So, well, I guess we'll see who's closest to right.
That should get him top 5, right?
Yeah, at least.
You said you had a fun fact and a game that you wanted to end this section on.
Yeah,
so I'm curious
Landon,
what I'm getting myself into here.
We've seen a lot of physical, strong defensive play from Austin FC this year. Did you know that Austin FC is tied for first in Major League Soccer in 2025 for yellow cards?
Oh, really?
Yes, we are the number 1 most yellow carded team, tied with DC United.
Best in the West, baby.
That's right. A famed finesse soccer team out there in our nation's capital. But Landon, what I want to know is, can you name our top 3 yellow card earners for Austin FC in 2024? 2025,
I checked this
sorry.
a couple of weeks ago, and at that point in time, Brandon Vasquez was the leader.
He is tied for first.
And he has
3.
He's on 3 still. Okay.
And there are 2 other players tied with him for 3 yellow cards.
I'm going to say Danny Pereira.
Danny Pereira is one of them.
And Sabovic?
That's right. Vasard Sabovic.
His per 90 numbers are better than the other 2 then.
Oh yeah, he's the top of the list on FOTMob. Maybe they are sorting by per 90s. Rounding out our top 5 are Ilie with 2 and Hader also with 2, which would also put his per 90 numbers way up there.
Oh yeah.
So all this to say that folks who wanted a more physical team, folks who wanted a more maybe spicy team seem to be getting it this year. Or are the refs screwing us, Landon?
Well, I want to get into that a little bit later, but
what do you say we take an ad break then?
Let's do it. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
No one is around.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. All right, we are back. We're going to jump into reviewing the rest of the Portland Timbers match. Coming into this game, we knew Dessler was going to be out. Found out when the availability report came out that Diego Rubio was also out, listed with a hamstring injury. We don't have any other details on that, and it seems like it was probably just something that happened in training, so hopefully it's not anything too serious and he won't be out for too long, but I imagine we'll find out more in the midweek press conference this week. I think the other really only main question coming into this one was with Ilie sitting out or not starting in the previous match, we were assuming he would step back in, and we were saying, okay, who do we see playing next to him, Savovich or Pereira, thinking that, okay, Owen Wolff is unbenchable now, so it's going to be 3 of those 4. But we were wrong. It was Savovich and Pereira, Ilie on the bench.
Surprise.
Yeah. But I think they're forming a nice little partnership in the middle of the field there. We'll get into kind of the attacking shape there, but they were playing quite close to each other, and I think, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with the kind of the chemistry they're building around each other there. I think there's room to improve, but I saw some good signs.
Yeah, I think they have a fun, like, standard field position with Danny just a little bit higher than Savovich most of the time, but then like knowing that they can swap when needed is really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not quite a double pivot, right? Because it's not super free. Like it feels like Danny is always a little bit further afield, but like knowing that when Savovich sees his opportunity, he can take it, and Danny like is starting to read that game and be able to drop back into coverage is like so cool to see.
Yeah, I've noticed several moments this season where Danny has he's checking his surroundings. He notices someone like a fullback's pushing up or this is happening around him. And instead of pushing up to the edge of the box, he's backpedaling and taking a few steps back, which is part of that rest defense. Part of what makes them so good in transition defense is just being aware of things like that. It's not an exact science of, okay, you stand here when this happens. Like, no, it's reading the room, reading what your teammates are doing and making sure that there's cover for them. If they are one of the ones in that kind of rest 5, like that back 5 cover shape, if one of those guys moves, we need to make sure we get someone else in that area. And I think Danny's done a pretty good job of that. So the rest of the lineup, we got Stuver in goal, Gallagher right back, Swatak and Heinz Eich at center back again. So still no Cascante back into the 11. Beer at left back. And then this was more or less like the 4-4-2 shape. Not exactly symmetrical, not always looking like that, but I think that's probably the closest we could get to it. So Bukhari on the right, Wolff on the left, Pereira and Savovich as the 2 central mids, and then Uzuni and Vasquez up top. We were wondering if, like, what this game was going to look like, if Austin being at home would try to get a bit more out on the front foot, keep the ball a little bit better. They did keep the ball a bit more. I think possession ended very close to 50-50, but it was partially because Portland was also playing a little bit timid. And so I don't remember if this is in Phil West's article or someone else. I read this, but they described it as a boxing match, not in like the way that it was necessarily a fight, but in both teams kind of had their guards up and were just throwing jabs whenever they got the opportunity.
Yeah, it was one of those boxing matches that goes to the judges at the end of a billion rounds, and everyone's like, okay, I guess. Yeah. I was saying before the match that, like, if it's a Pereira Sabovich midfield, I think Svatak is your guy for that, right? But I think if Ilie is healthy or if Julio is healthy, you have to play with Ilie instead, unless we're going to have the ball like 70-30, right? I think a Julio Pereira like pairing means we're planning to have the ball almost the entire match.
Okay. Are you saying that you shouldn't have both of those guys on there at the same time?
I think if you have Sabovich and Pereira on the field, you can lose Julio's ball playing for
Gotcha.
Svatak's
Okay.
defense.
Yeah.
But if it's Danny or Sabovich with Ilie, you can afford to have Julio's ball playing because Ilie will be the responsible adult in the back line.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So starting off, Austin gets off to almost a very hot start with a few pretty big chances early on. In the opening seconds of the game, Portland's trying to play through the press. They did what was it against St. Louis, where when they were pressing us, we would switch from one fullback to the other, or was that maybe that was San Diego? Regardless, one of the teams that was pressing us, we would try to switch from one fullback to the other because there was a bunch of space over there. Portland did that to us a few times, and they tried it in these first few seconds. The ball just bounces off of Vasquez, I think. Bukhari picks it up, plays a square ball back into Vasquez, and he hits the ball with his first touch and is leaning back a little bit, doesn't quite get around it, and just plays it a little bit wide and a little bit high. But that could have maybe set the game onto a path where Austin does have 25% possession instead of 50.
Yeah, it very much felt like this pass from Bukhari, right? Felt like he really took to heart what Uzuni had told him last week. Pick your head up and make the pass, because this is exactly what we've wanted to see. We've wanted to see Bukhari get the ball, drive down, play that square ball. And so I was like immediately hyped that this is going to be the game where we run up the score like crazy.
Yeah. Another shot. I think this is the Uzuni header in the 3rd minute. In this play, you can see what Austin's attacking shape really looks like. And they had the center backs set really wide, fullbacks pushed a little bit higher, and then Pereira and Sabovich quite narrow and just kind of rotating off of each other and staying close to each other so that if there was a pass into one of them, they were there for support, even just like a little back and forth pass to keep the defenders on their heels, or they were just always kind of orbiting around each other, finding space, being there to support. And then the 2 strikers were mostly staying quite high and narrow. And then our wingers were oftentimes staying a bit more tucked in as well, because we had those fullbacks pushing up wide. And so they were kind of in those inside channels a lot of times during the buildup. So we kind of go through this first half, and I think this is where a lot of those mistakes I mentioned early happen, like where there's promising moments from Austin and then they just shoot themselves in the foot. And like I said, literally a dozen in the first half where just needlessly losing the ball. And luckily it never turned into anything super dangerous going the other way. But again, you think about, are they generating enough chances? And you'd have to believe that if they cut that number in half and only have 6 unforced errors in the first half, that maybe one of those turns into another dangerous shot.
I will say a lot of those unforced errors at least were in like our attacking third, right? They weren't necessarily the kind of errors that Portland was making in their defensive third or in the middle of the park that like we really should have done a better job of capitalizing on.
Yeah.
So like if you're gonna botch it, I would rather you botch it there than elsewhere, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, again, put it in perspective, the defense has been really solid. They're not making mistakes back there, but like we get a foul on the end line and Owen Wolf's cross just goes straight out of bounds. He just plays it right over the goal.
Nobody he
even
plays a
gets,
corner when it should be a free kick, right?
Right. Sabovic gets a shot, like that late arriving shot from the top of the box. Like he's built for that shot.
It's a second one of these too, where he's clearly pressing too hard on himself and like just sends it into the stands.
Yeah. So that I think Vasquez, that really early chance, I think he should have done better and at least got it on target. I don't think you can say like, oh, he has to score from there, because it's not that simple of a chance. But get it on target at least and give yourself a chance.
Are you gonna become bulletin board material here, Landon?
Oh, for Vasquez?
No. Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna badmouth the name of our Irish American hero?
I think I already called out his main mistake. Did I not? Is there another one you're thinking of?
I'm just thinking of the opportunities that you would have taken in the past before meeting him at a Lexus owners event.
He did dribble out of bounds unforced at one point just because he couldn't gather the ball. So just to stay on brand. We get to the 35th minute. This is the first of a few controversial refereeing decisions. So Brandon Vasquez, we win the ball while pressing. There's an awkward little combo play between Vasquez and Bukhari, but Austin's able to keep the ball. Vasquez has the ball wide right inside the 18-yard box, tries to turn a defender to find space. There's some contact and he goes down. There's a penalty shot there. I think this one was clean. I think Vasquez goes down a little too easy. There's two other penalty shouts throughout the rest of the game. One of them in the 25th minute. Uzuni and Pereira pick Ayala's pocket while they're trying to play out of the back, and Uzuni squaring up to shoot, and Ayala comes in and puts in a really strong sweeping tackle. The angle they showed of the replay on this one, they showed it once and you could not see anything. So I think Ayala probably wins the ball clean, but I have no clue. I did not see it at all.
Yeah, my tinfoil hat theory is if the league broadcast refuses to show it more than once, it's to save the referees like bacon a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. The announcers they kind of started going after Drew Fisher a little bit later on because of his yellow cards. And so there's one more penalty shout later on, which we'll get into in the flow of the game. But Drew Fisher's yellow cards, he gives Owen a yellow quite early. It is almost not even a foul. There's inches between when he touches the player's foot first and then wins the ball. He does hit the ball, but he gets the foot just a split second before. And that's the first yellow of the match, I think. And I feel like he sets a tone and kind of paints himself into a corner that then, okay, if that's a yellow, then this one is. But then there were some things that, like some really hard challenges on Wolf, too, like right in a row later on, where Owen was getting really upset that, like, okay, that was a yellow for me. Why isn't a yellow for this guy? And is that where you want Owen's head in that point in time? No, it's not. Is that exactly how I would have responded? It absolutely is.
Well, that yellow card to Owen in the 28th minute is right after the Ayala tackle that was not a foul at all. And that's what Owen is like yelling at the ref in the moment, is like, dude, this is exactly the same thing that just happened, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's okay, Drew.
Yeah, and I think he ends up giving some kind of soft ones to Portland later on as well. But yeah. I think he gives one to Anthony that I think is borderline. And then there's later on a moment where I think if he doesn't already have one, he probably gets one there. But Fisher's like, I kind of give him a soft one then. I can't give him a soft one now. And it kind of messes with the flow of the game. And I think that is a thing that really good refs know how to manage. And it's a thing that refs mess up a lot, is is not striking that balance right in managing when you caution, when you give cards, and yeah, it's you can set the balance off weird, but there's also some very strange foul calls. So this was really frustrating to me. 2 or 3 times, I think at least twice, it was Santiago Moreno, which like props to him for realizing he can do this and continuing to get away with it. But there would be a loose ball, not like a 50-50, like a 50-50 or one where it's like, okay, it's their ball and our guy's trying to get to it and they're holding him off. No, it's straight up loose ball. The ball pops up in the air and the Portland player would initiate contact. In one moment, I'm thinking of Moreno throwing himself into Sabovic with his back and just like moving backwards and has his arms around him. And Sabovic holds his ground. And that happens for long enough that Fisher blows the whistle and calls a foul on Sabovic. I'm like, what do you want him to do there? Like, should he fall over? Like, what do you do in that moment if a player just launches their body into you and you stand your ground? I don't understand how that's a foul. And I think it's a thing that another thing that refs do that annoy me is, okay, this kind of looks like a foul, or people usually call a foul in this situation, so I'll call it. But it's not black and white like that. Like read the game. What's happening here?
Read the room, Drew.
It? What was that?
Read the room, Drew.
Right, exactly. And this happened several times where I feel like the Austin player had no choice but to just stand there and hold their ground. They didn't initiate contact. They didn't pull. They didn't shove. They didn't trip. They were just standing there and got a foul called on them. All right, we get to halftime. In the post-game press conference, Estevez mentioned some changes that Portland made at halftime that kind of threw them off their game. So they had been pressing in a certain way, and then after halftime, they dropped a central midfielder back into the space where Vasquez would often drop into. And we've mentioned that several times breaking down these games where when we're under pressure very regularly, they'll look to drop that ball into Vasquez, either like a lofted pass or just a driven one to his feet as he's dropping into space. They took that away, and it flustered Austin FC. They didn't know what to do with that and were really struggling to play out of the back in any useful way. They finally break it open once with a bit of skill from Sabovic, where he kind of dinks a ball behind his standing leg and fakes out Chara. And then finally when Obrian came on, this is another thing Estevez pointed out in the press conference, was they had him start dropping in to those spaces where Vasquez would have been. So that midfielder's marking Vasquez, and then you have someone else drop into that space from a different position, and that kind of threw them off. It didn't quite lead to a ton of chances, but I think we draw a foul when he's receiving a ball there once, and then just having his tendencies where Obrian for Dallas played as like a second striker or like an inside forward like that regularly. So he's pretty comfortable playing in those pockets of the field. And so again, it didn't lead to a lot, but I like that Estevez is seeing things like that and trying to make changes, even if they don't fully come off or the players aren't fully able to take advantage of it. He's seeing it and trying to adapt the game plan to it.
I like that he's talking about it in the post-game matches.
Absolutely.
And like
he's
explaining what is happening. And because I think a lot of times that's a thing that we take for granted, right? Is like, okay, we see the game happen, we go back, we try to watch it on our own, right? But now knowing from the coach's mouth himself, hey, this is what happened and this is what I tried to do. Now when we do our rewatches and we're breaking this stuff down for the show, we're able to look for those things as well and like either say, yeah, he was kind of full of it on this one, or like, no, I see it. It happened here, here, and here. And now we can tell everybody else who isn't going to spend 180 minutes of their day rewatching these matches, right?
Yeah. Big shout out to Nico. He's been helping us out with a lot of that kind of info this year.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about this Portland chance in the 68th minute.
Yeah, that's kind of the last big one before subs start coming on.
It was Harry.
What's that?
It was Harry.
Yeah, this one was we didn't need Stuver, but this was another chance. We talked about how regularly in the last game Heinz Ike was just there. The ball comes into a dangerous spot. He's there every time. And this was one of those moments in this game. Moreno crosses the ball to the back post to Ayala. He puts the ball back across the face of goal. I'm pretty sure it's on target there, but and it's like it has Stuver beat. Like Stuver's not going to get to it. Heinzike is there on the goal line and clears it off. So another big moment from Heinzike there.
Yeah, it's one of those moments that doesn't show up as a shot, right? But like, if X threat were a commonly available stat here, I think that one would rank pretty high on that. Like, usually this creates a real problem for teams with that ball in.
Yeah, and I'll take this moment to give some praise to Svatak as well. During the rewatch, I mean, I noticed during the game some moments where he came up big, and there's one where there's a through ball in behind to DaCosta, and he had been pulled wide because of the like defensive rotation, and then was tracking back centrally, and he reads the run and the pass and goes full sprint and lays out and gets a toe to the ball that would have put DaCosta in like the 6-yard box 1v1 with Stuver if he didn't get there. So I was watching. If defensive moments, I would just kind of either rewind it or just be watching Svatak on his awareness, his ability to read the game. He does a really good job of that kind of stuff as far as like he's not super fast, but he just sees the game so well. He's able to get in himself into positions that are useful to himself and to his teammates. And you'll see that in box defending moments where him and Heinzike have really good chemistry in that regard as well. Knowing where the other one's going to be and knowing what spots are going to be dangerous, and you'll see them cut stuff out. And if you just watch when the ball comes in, it's like, okay, he was standing there at the right place, right time, and it hit him. It's like, no, rewind 5 seconds and watch what he did to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been nice to see him get in there. Right. He is not a player who, if you watch the game on the ball, you probably don't love watching Svatak play.
Oh, he's very, what's
he
the
makes
word?
me
Like
nervous.
a little clumsy on the ball, a little bit slow motion with some of the things that he does on the ball. And so, yeah, he's definitely not shining in those moments, but yeah, off the ball.
I don't want to say
been
he's got
very
a
good.
case of the kips, but like he reminds me a little bit of those like little nervous feet, right? From our former draft pick.
So moving into kind of the final phase of the game, we get the Obrian sub for Bukhari at 71. And then in the 83rd minute, Kolmanich comes on for Biru. Dubersarski comes on for Sabovic. And then in the very dying minutes, CJ Fodre comes on for Owen Wolf. But we get a few chances as we're kind of pushing, having a bit more of the ball, getting into the final third. And so we get the final penalty shot where there's a ball played into the box. I can't remember where it came from or who played it, but it's a curling ball a bit behind Vasquez. He's running into the 18. He sees the ball's going over him. He kind of checks his run to follow the trajectory of the ball and catches contact in the back, goes down in the box. I think had that ball been closer to him, that you maybe get that call, but because it was so far over him, I'm not all that upset that they didn't call that one. How did you see that one?
So it's across from John Gallagher, and as it comes in, I think maybe this is my Verde tinted lenses, right? But I think he's in a better place when he starts his jump than when he ends up because of that push. But I only watched the match the one time, so
he was not going to get to the ball.
No, he wasn't.
Time.
He wasn't going to score. Yeah,
he wasn't going to touch it. It was well over him. So that's kind of my reasoning. Is like even if he did check back unimpeded, he wasn't going to get to the ball. It would have been like a second ball situation. And in that case, I'm like, okay, this is where box rules are maybe a little bit different. And you don't call the foul you would have called 5 yards further away. So I don't know it. But Vasquez is able to stand straight back up, and Gallagher puts a really strong cross in, hits him right in the forehead, and gets a lot of power on the ball. the trajectory is probably just under the post, but it is right at the keeper. And if he goes one way or the other, maybe he's able to beat him, but doesn't really hassle Pantimis too much there.
Yeah, I was thinking of that cross from Gallagher at him. I do not remember who kicked the first one toward the other way. I guess at that point,
the ball feels like a Colemanich ball to me.
I was going to say
he wouldn't have been on the field yet, so I don't know who it was. Uzuni gets a chance in the 84th minute. So the Austin press forces them to play a bad long ball. Owen gets out of pressure with a fancy little flick again. They get an early cross from Colemanich. The first ball is a little bit too high, but Uzuni's able to recover it, does some fancy footwork to create his own shot, and again, goes a little bit high, a little bit wide. He does a really good job creating the shot, but like, let's just get it on target. Let's get it on target. Don't get too cute here. And then there's another moment in the 89th minute. Some nice combination play up the left side gets Colemanich into space, kind of in beyond their back line. Plays a square cross into the box. You have Obrian arriving late with a good angle to hit the ball. Uzuni's also standing there. He doesn't see Obrian coming. He checks back to get it from the like fan angle, a much worse position to take a shot from than what Obrian was going to have. And so he gets in Obrian's way and then also kind of fluffs the shot and puts it out for a goal kick. So I don't know that Obrian was yelling at him. I don't know that anybody needed to, because he looked pretty disappointed in himself in that moment as well.
Yeah, he seemed like he knew it after the fact. If he had known it before the fact, we might have gotten out of there in 3 points.
Yeah, and there was some traffic there, so Obrian's was not a sure thing, but it was a better chance than what Uzuni ended up taking.
That's 2024 leading goal scorer for Austin FC, Hader Obrian. Landon, put some respect on his name.
Sorry. So let's talk about Brad Stuver's performance. He was selected to the bench for the team of the week by MLS. He had, I think they had like 13 shots, but there was really only, I think, like 3 moments that really made Brad sweat in this game, which is a testament to just how good the team defended and aren't letting them get into super dangerous areas. There's one in the first half where Portland actually does break through the press. The defenders do well to kind of recover and pressure the ball as it's approaching the box. Mora is able to kind of deflect the ball a little bit wide, but Stuver is very quick off of his line, stays big, stops the shot with his chest, and then I think the ball gets played back in, but several defenders had gone back onto the line and Beer was able to clear it out, so really good on them there as well. There was a shot from Moreno in the 51st minute. David Da Costa has a free kick from where he won the game for Portland the first time we played them. This ball is not quite as good, so it goes back out to him. He's able to play up the line to Moreno. He takes a quick touch inside and just whips a shot far post. The shot itself, I think Stuver had it pretty comfortably, but there's a lot of traffic in the box. I think 2 Portland players just kind of hanging out there on that back post. So Stuver gets down quickly and punches it away, but he also does really well to punch it not at one of those guys and kind of steer it clear of those Portland players in the box, because that could have been dangerous as well. And then the final play of the game is a Kamal Miller header. This is probably the most dangerous one. They play in a corner. Miller goes up, wins the header, plays it to that back post. Stuver has the dive to punch it out and does really well to save it. Like it was not an easy one to do, but that ends up more or less being the last play of the game. And so he didn't have to make a ton of big saves, but he did come up real big the couple of times that we needed him to.
Yeah, and additionally, like his distribution was pretty good all night. He ended up 36 of 42 or 86% passing. Like another super solid performance from a guy who kind of like, I think we take these for granted. And one day we're going to look back and be like we knew he was good, but I really miss him. Like
Brad, big hand.
Yeah. Amen. Amen, Bureau.
Let's get into a few player notes before we wrap this up. So we talked about Heinzike, his actual play, but he was doing some pot stirring out in the field that I really appreciated.
A little bit of well housing.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really see this from him very often, but I think they did stop to let VAR take a look at the Vasquez push in the box in the 80th minute. And so there's people just standing around waiting for that call to be done. And Heinz Ike is in the face of Kamal Miller, like very calm, but clearly like looking him in the eyes and talking to him. And then he gets pushed away, and then he goes up to, I think it was Mosquera or one of their other defenders, and he's in his face, and he gets a push, and then he looks at the ref and said, "Hey, they've pushed me 2 times, man. You got to stop them." And then the ref walks away, and he's back in someone else's face after that, and he's just like, he's not mad. Like, it's kind of like Diego Rubio. Like, Diego Rubio's never actually mad.
He's learning from the king.
He's playing a game.
Yeah.
And so I love to see Brendan Heinzike doing that same thing. Heinzike was the player that we got for midweek press conference last week. And every time we talk to him, I just like, man, this guy's smart. And he's really like, this is maybe I think we shared this in a group chat, but I know that Mikael Dessler is my boyfriend, but he's been gone for so long. And
are you sending a Dear John letter to Mikael Dessler live on Moon Tower this week?
It's that whole meme of me walking down the street holding Mikael Dessler's hand, but I'm looking over my shoulder at Besard Savovic, and Brendan Heinzike is there walking down the street. And no, but big fan of Brendan Heinzike. Really smart, thoughtful guy, well spoken, shares really good information, not just about the game, but about team dynamics and being a leader and all that kinds of stuff. So it's cool to see a guy who is that guy off the field be able to be this guy on the field at times when he needs to. Like, that's a gamer right there. I like that.
Do you think this is a byproduct of having cemented his place on the team? Like, he knows now that he is first choice on the back line, right? And because of that, he's feeling himself a little bit more. He's stepping into that a little bit more. He's able to fully express himself in a way that, like, you only get to do when you're confident in your place on the team.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure that has something to do with it. He said last week when we talked to him that he doesn't like to be the guy in the spotlight. He wants to be kind of in the shadows, helping the team however he can, being a leader however he can. And like, I buy that from a guy like that. And I could see how, okay, I'm here. I'm in that position that I want to be in. And yeah, I feel good about my game. I feel good about my position. I feel like I can be a leader and do these things as well. And get away with it and not lose my cool and not lose the head game that I'm trying to play. Like, I think confidence has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. And I think that's the sort of confidence that, if I were to assume what Nico's talking about when he's talking about like building up confidence with 1-0 wins so that everybody plays a little bit more freer, right? I think this is what you want to see from players. And it would make sense that because we've started with this defensive focused structure, that you start to see that more from the defense first. Hopefully it translates all the way up the field. But in the meantime, getting to watch some of the biggest personalities on the team do this stuff is great.
Yeah. 6 weeks from now, we'll get Brandon Vasquez taunting players into red cards.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple more player notes. Bukhari, I mean, he didn't have many notable moments, but I feel like he was playing quicker, playing more simply, got some early crosses in that almost led to something. So hopefully we can turn that into production, but I feel like he's not thinking as much as he has been in some of those games where we thought maybe he's playing just a little bit too slowly, staying on the ball a little bit too long. And then Dubrsarski gets his first real minutes that aren't just, okay, go run for 8 minutes while we try to close out this this 1-0 win.
Yeah, this was
And
go run for 7 minutes plus stoppage time while we try to score a goal.
He got on the ball a little bit though. Like he actually played some passes, which I think in like the LAFC game and whatever the other one was, it was literally just chasing dudes, and that's all he did.
I think he tripled his touch output, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah, on first watch, I was like, okay, I think he did okay in like positioning. I feel like he's an active mover and like always trying to get into spots where he needs to be. On the rewatch, I noticed there's a moment where Kolmanich yells at him for not playing a wall pass and instead like turning and playing it backwards instead. And then right after that, Kolmanich had like rotated into the midfield and Dubersarski kind of dropped back into the fullback position, thinking like, okay, if Kolmanich is over there, I'm going to stay here. And then Kolmanich was yelling at him to get back into the midfield. And so there's a couple of things there, which just like, okay, he's still learning his place here. Yeah. But then on that final the Kamal Miller header from that final corner, it was Dubersarski who was marking him, which maybe he shouldn't be, but they've got quite a few big guys, but Miller kind of shakes him and pushes him off right before the ball gets there. And so he's more or less unmarked as the ball gets there. Luckily, none of these things led to anything major. So they're the kinds of mistakes that are just a lack of experience, right? And so I think this will probably be a good learning moment for him. He seems like a smart kid who wants to learn a lot based from what folks have told me in and around the club and just kind of seeing him interact with folks. Like he seems older and more mature than his 20 years. So I think he's probably the kind of player who will take what he learned in this game and carry it forward with him. And hopefully we can see him grow a little bit more throughout the season.
I hope so. In Swoon Tower Land, we really love Nico Dubersarski a whole lot. He just has like an infectious joy to the way that he like comports himself in the sub line. He's always working super hard to like stretch and be ready just in case he gets called. So yeah, we're pulling for him for sure, because like how fun would it be to have a gigantic, good, young defensive midfielder?
Yeah, that would be fun. Last player note is Ilya Sanchez. So they make that Dubersarski sub in the 83rd minute. Sanchez doesn't touch the field. He's standing over in the warm-up area coaching the team for the last 10 minutes of the game, but never touches the field. I was a little bit concerned if like maybe he's injured or something like that. I think Estevez said in an answer in Spanish in the post-game press conference that like estamos cuidando, like we're just like being cautious is what I read from it. That maybe like they said he came into the season with a bit of a knock and they were taking it easy then. And then maybe now they're just like, okay, we're not going to play him unless we have to, or like, I don't know if there's like a specific injury or if it is just the mileage you put on in however many years of being a pro.
Yeah, I saw a video of him warming up on Saturday before the Portland match, and it looked like he might have a bandage on his upper right leg. It could be just a slight,
fresh tattoo.
Could be a tattoo, could be maybe a slight muscle nagging injury kind of thing, right? I know as an older gentleman, like if I get hit in the leg, it hurts a lot longer than it used to. You know what I mean? So maybe it's picked up just a little bit of a knock in training or something like that, and it like has just kind of been sticking with him. But yeah, I don't know, man. Did we sign someone who is on like more of the downslope of their career than we thought they might be?
Potentially, but we also signed other guys who play the same position and are at the very least passable, if not pretty good MLS players.
Yeah.
And so it's a good spot to be in. Like if you have a guy who's not going to be able to play, and I imagine they signed him knowing he wasn't going to play 90 minutes every game, to have Danny Pereira on the team, to bring in a guy like Sabovic. If he ends up being out for long stretches and he's not available to come on for the last 30, that's when it becomes an issue, I think. But right now, if it's just cautionary and they're trying not to push him too hard, we're still in pretty good shape with the corral of midfielders that we have.
Yeah, it's crazy to have depth. This feels like the first time we've had serviceable MLS depth across multiple positions, especially in the midfield. Maybe since I've been an Austin FC fan, which is since the club existed.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with a few other pieces of Austin FC news, and we'll do our Vancouver Whitecaps preview. Hang tight.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. Our friends at Sage Wilson Realty are giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match. Fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage Real Estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
Our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in Chinamala cities and is proud to support Moon Tower Soccer and Austin FC's march to the playoffs. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We are going to preview Austin FC's first trip to Canada and the upcoming match against the Vancouver Whitecaps. But first, let's check in real quick on an injury update. I know last week we talked about Leo Väisänen having to come off injured 10 minutes into his first game. Maybe Mike, you may have seen more updates on this, but what we read on Twitter was that they thought it was a hamstring or something. It came back after that they think it was knee ligament.
Yeah.
Did you see anything else on that?
I have heard that it is a torn ACL and he will be out for the season.
That's brutal.
It just crushing. Poor guy. Like, ugh.
Yeah. Get better soon, Leo.
Yeah.
Checking in on Dessler real quick. When I was out at the training facility the other day, he was doing light changes of directions, and so they just had him like running between cones but running slightly at an angle as he went. And so Estevez said that he's on track with their initial estimate. So I think they said 6 to 8 weeks. Then that would be 2 to 4 weeks from now, and so still not soon enough for my liking, but good to know that it's not worse than they initially thought at the very least. So Riley Thomas got called up on his 4th short-term loan for this game. That is the last one they can call him for. We have at least 2, probably more like 4 weeks without him still. I've seen the theory of, okay, maybe they'll just throw Riley Thomas a supplemental spot. We have several open that we're probably not going to use this year. So it's not really hurting that much to just give him that contract, and then you can put him on the bench whenever you need him. I was looking.
I can't believe this name landed.
And Tommy Thompson from San Jose Earthquakes. I think he played.
Excuse me, from Des Moines Menace. Tommy Thompson, the Des Moines Menace legend.
Yeah, Des Moines Menace being the what league do they play in?
USL 2.
USL 2, which is it's a team that mostly plays like a summer season.
Yeah, they're college kids.
Kids.
Yeah, who are currently in their college seasons or taking finals. And so they cannot compete in the Open Cup with their normal roster. But one of the owners of Des Moines Menace happens to be friends with Sasha Kljestan. So for the Open Cup, they just piled a bunch of MLS retirees onto a team. And man, did it look like it. Tommy Thompson was one of them.
Tommy Thompson is still, I think, 29 years old.
He's 29 years old. Yep.
I was shocked to see that he just doesn't have a team, period, right now. I did look back through his situation at San Jose. His last contract was a 1+1 through 24 and 25. His 25 option did not get picked up, and he was already making senior minimum at that point. And so you don't often see guys who are making a higher salary who then start making a lower salary while they're still in their 20s. That's a bad sign. So I'm not sure what happened in San Jose, what he's up to now, if he's trying to get back in. But like, okay, Mike, I know in the offseason we had a saying for guys like this, right?
We sure did.
What is it?
Take him on a supplemental.
I'll take him on a supplemental, like whoever it is. Yeah, I'll take him on a supplemental. I don't want to spend too much allocation money on him, but I'll take him on a supplemental.
I mean, I'd take him on a supplemental. Like if Tommy Thompson's available on a senior supplemental spot, like all right, fine. You know.
Do you know anything about him, like as a person?
Nope. I know that he has a great name.
He speaks Spanish.
Okay.
I think they made a big deal about like him essentially teaching himself Spanish just through Duolingo and like playing soccer and being around Spanish speakers a lot. I don't know if people like him. I don't know if he's a good locker room presence, but like he's a guy who's played a lot of games in MLS. And if
he played 83 minutes last year, Landon.
But he started like seasons for them. A very bad San Jose team most of the time. But I mean, just a guy to have in emergency situations. Like, I don't know. You could do worse.
He played in the Open Cup against Sacramento Republic and Oakland Roots last year. Didn't start either of those either. Came off the bench for a 35-minute spell against Oakland and a 15-minute spell against Sacramento Republic. His FOTMOB scores were mid. So that's kind of what we're looking at for some of these free agents. I will say I watched his Des Moines Menace match. He moved much better than Matt Hedges, who like, you know, the old man, like when you like run with your arms to like pump as hard as you can.
Oh, I know that run very well, Mike.
Yeah, that's what Matt Hedges looked like in that match. I know there has been talk about our lack of center back depth right now, and that name has been floated around by the Tom Bogerts of the world as a man who's still looking for a club.
Nah, Biru put that to sleep.
I would not take that man on a supplemental.
Biru's our fourth center back. Dessler's our fifth center back. That's all we need.
Amen. But then we might actually need Tommy Thompson. I would take Riley Thomas over Tommy Thompson.
Okay. I've not watched Tommy Thompson in years, so
I'll only for the muscles on Riley Thomas. This is a man who like is working real hard to get to the MLS level of fitness for sure.
All right, let's move on to the Vancouver Whitecaps preview. But first, I want to plug the Los Verdes watch party that's going to be this Saturday, April 12th. It is at Southern Heights Brewing, which is a cool location. They're going to be indoor with multiple TVs. Matches at 6:30. The party is going to start off at 5 p.m. It is all ages. There's plenty of free parking. Taquicardia is the food truck there. Have you had Taquicardia, Mike?
I had them at ABW Sprinkle.
Yes.
And man, it was really, really good. Their Al Pastor was excellent. Highly recommended.
Yeah, big fan of Southern Heights, big fan of Taquicardia. But there'll be Los Verdes member drink specials. La Murga is going to be there playing music, I'm guessing before, during, and after the game. So yeah, check out the watch party out at Southern Heights. Not sure if I'll be able to make this one, but we've gone to the last couple and had a really good time. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, party starts at 5 p.m. for that 6:30 kickoff. 6:38 if we're being real.
All right, Mike, let's talk about the Whitecaps.
Yeah, so this week we will be playing the Vancouver Whitecaps. As always, Swoon Tower will have an opponent spotlight this week. We are talking to the folks from AFTN, who are a radio show / podcast about the Whitecaps local to Vancouver. Super excited to get some more insight into what this team is going through. And so usually those are about a half hour on the Swoon Tower episodes that come out on this feed. So definitely make sure to stay tuned there for more in-depth information from local coverage like ourselves for Austin, but for Vancouver.
Yeah, these previews have been excellent. definitely check that out. We'll give a brief preview here, but
Yeah.
you'll get much more in-depth knowledge during Mike and Steph's preview later this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I know what I know, but they know what we know about Austin for Vancouver.
Exactly.
So the big highlights for me are that this year they've got a new manager, Jesper Sorensen. He is Danish and most recently coached at Brøndby in Denmark. Brøndby, by the way, Landon, home of American goalkeeper and all-time last name first teamer, Gavin Beavers. He is replacing the king of my heart, Vanni Sartini. This, to me, I think is the biggest news of Vancouver's offseason is that the Lord of press conferences and like openness is out of Vancouver, replaced by Jesper Sorensen, who has a different vibe, but is winning. So they are 5 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw in the league, but they've already played 12 matches, and they are playing again against Pumas on Wednesday in Mexico before flying back home to play us. So that's pretty good.
Right. So they lost in the offseason. What was the DP that they signed that got sold back to England?
Oh, yeah, that's a great call out.
Another Scottish guy, right?
Yes.
Stuart Armstrong, was that his
Armstrong,
name?
yes.
I think that's his name. Anyway, he looked quite good.
He was great. Yeah.
Played for them, but they ended up selling him back to England, so they lost him. People were not super high on this Vancouver team going into preseason.
They were not supposed to be good this year, but they have been incredible so far. They are 7th in goals per match. They're 3rd in goals conceded. They're 5th in average possession. And they're tied with us for 1st in clean sheets with 4. So they are killing the league, all the while advancing in CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is not easy.
All the other teams playing these midweek matches have kind of flagged in the league, and Vancouver's been able to keep up with both, including, so Ryan Gauld has been injured. And so they played some of these CCC matches without him. They're currently missing Jaden Nelson, who's a new guy they brought in, who everyone expected, like, okay, that's a good piece, but he's been really good for them.
Yeah, he's their leading goal contributor right now. So fast.
Yeah. But I think Nelson is injured now. Gauld is injured now.
Yep.
Sam Adekube, who's their leading scorer, is injured. Matias Labordo, who's kind of a mainstay on their back line, is injured. This has not really phased them. They've been fine without these guys. Ali Ahmed, who I think is like 24, kind of a solid role player for them the last few years. He's stepped up and has been quite good.
Sebastian Berhalter,
Sebastian Berhalter,
incredible this year.
All grown up, and I think he's gotten better over the last couple of seasons, but he's been very good this year. Emmanuel Sabi, do you know who that guy is? Is that name familiar to you?
The name is only familiar because I've been watching Vancouver, and he's been like really good.
He's one of those guys like on the Total Soccer show. They'll be like, "Oh, this guy's playing in the 12th best team in Belgium. I think he's going to be like, I think he's going to make it. I think he's going to be real good." And he's been doing that since he was like 18. He's like 29 now, and came back to MLS and like never really blew up on the European stage, but came back and has been quite good for Vancouver so far. All that to be said, like it kind of doesn't matter who's on the field. They're able to kind of keep humming and keep playing together really well on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Team looks dangerous. And anytime you have a team with the best defensive midfielder in the game, in Andres Cubas, like they're going to be tough to play against. The fact that they've got all these other pieces humming alongside him, Sebastian Berhalter being able to do the things that he does, knowing that he's got Andres Cubas behind him. Brian White is still Brian Whiting, right? Vanny's favorite non-DP DP, continuing to perform like a DP. So it's going to be a tough match. It's away from home. Landon, I do have to report that they only have one roof at BC Place, but there are 2 ceilings. So I don't want to hear it.
Rolling out the deep cuts here. And so, okay, looking back at past trips to Canada, Danny Pereiro is not able to make several of these trips. I believe that shouldn't be a problem now, right? I think he's gotten all of his stuff sorted out, so he should be able to travel. Dessler's going to be out, of course. We'll see if Rubio is still available.
We'll see about Ilya.
Yeah, I mean, Ilya will at least, we're confident he'll probably dress and could go if he absolutely needed to. I'm curious to see what they'll do about the back line now that, do we get an announcement that Riley Thomas is going to be a supplemental spot? Do we get a Tommy Thompson announcement? But yeah, they're going to have to do something. Like, they need to have someone available to throw in at those spots. And maybe they start using those short-term loan call-ups on Antonio Gomez, who can play fullback as well. Maybe that's what we see, and they just keep kicking the can down the road until they absolutely have to make a decision, or until Dessler just comes back and it's not a problem anymore.
Anthony Deonda, free Anthony. Bring him up to the... Honestly, like, this is a team that could use a little bit of well-housing away from home. Put him on, get a yellow card in the first 3 minutes, and then, put somebody else in.
How do you see Austin approaching this game?
Yeah, y'all are going to hate this, but I think we're going to sit back and try and counter, because this is a team who loves to have the ball. And I think Nico can come up with a game plan that will frustrate and try and suffocate them. Maybe we make Sebi Berhalter have to keep hitting those long pings that he's so good at, but like set up to defend against them. And so maybe we leave open a trap and like pick one of our faster fullbacks to like come and steal that ball away.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. I mean, I think they scored 12 goals, have only conceded 5, and so they are dangerous in the attack. Oh, I saw this stat earlier today that they have 10 different goal scorers.
Yeah. They don't care. They don't care who gets the ball. It's going to be a tough match.
But I think, I mean, yeah, I'm sure Estevez will say, like, oh, yeah, we'll try to take our moments and control the game where we can. But if it turns into, okay, they're putting a lot of pressure on us, I'm almost expecting them to revert to that defend hard, counter hard, try to steal a goal, go home with 3 points.
Plus or minus 23.5% possession for Austin.
Oh, man. It's got to be higher, right?
No, of course. Yeah,
it almost statistically has to be. But like bump that up to 35.
35, I'm taking the under. I think the line is probably 29.5, right?
I hope it's not that low, but if it's 35 and we score a goal, I'll call that a good day. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up, Mike?
No, I'm looking forward to the match. I'm hoping that Vancouver really goes for it on Wednesday. I think we'll know a lot more about what their plan is for our match on Saturday based on what they do against Pumas in Mexico on the 9th.
And then it's 1-1. They've played the first leg 1-1. Maybe sorry if you already said this, but so Pumas got that away goal. So Vancouver will need to fight for this one. Maybe you could see it like going crazy early in the game, and they're like, okay, we're not going to win this, and they start pulling guys that they want to play against us. But chances are it's going to be a fight for at least part of the game. And so, yeah, here's to hoping they run themselves ragged before they come back to Vancouver.
Yeah, everyone watching CONCACAF Champions Cup craziness, cross your fingers for added time.
Yes, that would be great. All right, before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the Patreon, where the pictures of the new gifts are absolutely already there.
Currently and I'm not
going to put them up after we get done. But yeah,
I already believe they're there.
But the gifts are very, very cool. The bandana and the hot sauce, I'm very, very proud of them. I think these are the best ones we've ever done. So can't wait to get them in your hands. If you want to get some of those in your hands, go to patreon.com/moontower. No, patreon.com/moontowersoccer. Mixing up my URLs here. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week to review Austin's match in Vancouver and then preview the upcoming match. LA Galaxy, is that the next one?
That is the next one.
Oh, man. I've been watching the Galaxy saying we can't play these guys soon enough. Hopefully they don't get too healthy before they come here.
Yeah. In the meantime, check out the new Swoon Tower on Friday, where again we'll have the folks from AFTN on the show talking about this Vancouver match just in time for kickoff on Saturday.
All right, Mike, we'll see you later this week. I'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
And I'm Mike Cragnola.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothing, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Because they love cheap boom boom sauce.
Yeah. Feels weird not to end a show with "Love you, bye."
You can if you want.